Hey guys, I'd like to talk about hope. Uh, Hope is an unfortunate aspect of what we're doing. We don't need to get into the doom and gloom of all that because we all know why we're looking for hope. But I'd like to share what I've figured out along the way and what helped me find more hope and get to where I am. Because, yay, I did it. So, along the way of healing, one of the worst phases I went through was the time that in my brain I wasn't sitting here going, I'm not going to make it. I just lost hope. I wasn't telling myself, this is it, we're done. It was just that I didn't see a way to continue doing what I was doing. Sometimes things are so bad that you're looking at it and you're like, this can't go on any further before destruction. So, what are we going to do about it? And it's a weird topic situation. I hope that in my ramble, I get something out there that helps somebody see something a little bit different. I don't know. I'm not trying to be an expert or something saying this is it. I just hope this helps somebody find hope. A really important thing for me, I think, was finding a healing buddy, which happened completely by mistake or whatever, by chance. I was working from home at the time and I couldn't really focus on stuff, so I lost my contracts and I had to find a job. I couldn't find anything to work from home, so I had to go commute 45 minutes and sit in an office to type on the same keyboard and monitor that I have in front of me at my house. And anyway, I ran into my buddy that were like very similar in a lot of ways, and we're chit chatting, and we realized that we're both going through pretty much the same healing journey, and we're struggling with a lot of the same stuff, and we're asking a lot of the same questions, and we're worried about the same things and freaking ourselves out over this and that. And I'll have to come back to this because my healing buddy and I actually started freaking ourselves out at points, and we had to either have somebody else talk us down or realize it ourselves and talk each other down. But having somebody to communicate with, I think, is necessary. Otherwise, we're doing this inside of our head, and that's not. We can't do that because we have lots of space to run in our head, and other people can stand there and be like, "Dude, you're running around like crazy. Like, stay over here." And we're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. That's right." So the group is actually an amazing resource for that. It's just it really depends what we're going through. There's like over 80% of the members are female in my group, and I think that unfortunately shows something. But now we've got only 20% of the members are male, and then we're going through different things, and we're kind of stubborn and stuff. So finding somebody that we can communicate with like this is not easy. I'm very lucky to have some of you guys reach out and ask questions because, some of the questions that we ask, we don't want to ask. I've had several people ask me about testicular situations, and I have no problem talking about it, but it's not exactly something that we go around and talk about and ask and stuff. And I think it's great that people can feel comfortable asking me about something that freaks them out like that. If I had a serious question about my testicles, like, that's enough to drive you nuts. And when you go to the doctor and you're like, "Hey doc, got this thing going on," doctor's like, shit. And numbers look fine or something. I don't have anything to sell you. Get out of here, kid. Yeah, it's daunting. It rips you apart. I went to one of the reasons I knew not to go to the doctor when my health crashed was because a couple years or a little while before that, I realized I had a hernia, and I went to the doctor and I was like, "I think I have a hernia. What do I do? Like, is it bad? Do I whatever?" And they were like, they didn't even look at it, and they go, "Yeah, you might have a hernia, and you just go get the mesh." And I was like, "Okay, that was pretty useless. I'm glad I just gave you money for that." And then I went home and I looked up the mesh, and I was like, "Oh, here's a ton of people saying that they were much better off before having some weird mesh installed in their body that doesn't do anything." So, like, I understand a little bit about the fact that the doctor is useless and keeps us bottled up in fear. And I think that's why having somebody to talk to is so cool, because when we find somebody that's open-minded to this stuff like we are, we can communicate, throw ideas off them. They can say that's silly. They can say, I read this over here. Here's my thoughts on that. And it's just a really great way to not go insane. Another really interesting aspect to continuing to have some hope through this was realizing what I am. This topic goes insane. And before I started healing, I didn't look at life this way at all. And as I continue to heal, it becomes more and more apparent. And then I continue thinking this way. I am Earth suspended by sunlight. If I were to step back really far from Earth and look at it from a distance and watch it play and fast forward, the Earth is bouncing around and making people's lives, and they die, and then more people. And that's just the Earth is just sitting there vibrating pretty much. Inside that is what we call life, but whatever is happening is really weird. And the fact that my cells are using Earth and sunlight to do whatever they're doing to allow me to stare at my computer screen right now and talk is just overwhelmingly insane. There's no word to describe that. I don't know how many ancestors went through how much bullcrap to get me here. I got my parents split up 3 years after I was born. What if that happened a year before I was born? That's, 3-4 years, not really a long time in the scheme of things. One of my grandmothers was an orphan, and a common alternative to being an orphan is getting vacuumed. So the fact that I'm here is incredible, and the fact that I didn't manage to mess it up in the first couple decades of life is incredible. It's not time for me to go. Like, no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to figure it out. This is not just some dinky ride, roller coaster ride that's, just it rides once and that's it. It breaks or whatever. This is like a locomotive steam engine that is just barreling forward, and it's going to take a lot to stop it. Now, this kind of sounds like fairy tale stuff because, like, dude, I feel like crap and I feel like I'm dying. I don't know what to do. Everything I do backfires, whatever it is. Yeah, I get that. We're going to get into that, though. That's why I'm making videos. Part of it is the fact that there's all these little things along the way that we see, we run into, we need to figure out. And that's, again, back to having a buddy. We can't do this by ourselves. Our partners may not be open to it. We have to be careful to not, even if they are, to just overwhelm them with it. And then chances are that they're just, yeah, okay, buddy, whatever works for you, which is cool and all, but it's still not somebody to talk to. And we can't let that eat us up. That's a whole nother thing of relationships and stuff that we have to do what it takes to maintain the life that we were living while we figure out how to get through the life that we're living now and then the life that we're going to be living after we understand how to do this stuff. We're going through a transition, a huge change. Aside from the fact that we're stuck and we can't move forward, we are repairing an organic computer that has broken thoughts, mindsets, emotions, whatever it is. And I'll actually get into this because this is a big piece of it, the emotions, because that's what our lack of hope is. It's a incorrect emotion or something like that. So we are made of earth, and the earth has a bunch of toxicities. It's just the way it works. There's good things, there's nutrients that work good for certain things, and then there's ones that don't work good for certain things. The ones that don't work good are toxins. It's what the definition is. They're not these things that we came along and we were like, oh, this categorizes as a nutrient. Does it move us forward or does it move us backwards? Because that's all that we're able to deal with. Like, we put it in, it worked. Okay, let's write that down. Somebody took that in and they died. Okay, let's make a note of that. So we are this organization of proper nutrients to allow whatever is going on, making neurotransmitters and stuff. The toxins are inhibiting that ability. They are not supposed to be there. So a toxin is almost like, this is going to be this is touchy, but imagine if the cashier doesn't show up for work and everybody else has their jobs, that cash register needs to run, but there's no body to fill that spot with. And a homeless person that is outside begging for money all the time walks through the front door thing, and they showered recently, they look decent. Let's go ahead and put them in place of the person that was running the cash register. We've got a human being there. They can communicate, they can push buttons, and they're likely smart enough to figure out how to use a cash register, except they're not an employee, and somebody that is looking for change is probably going to be looking for change tomorrow, or they would have applied for the job and not been homeless. So they are a toxin. Again, that was not the greatest example. It's a little touchy, but I'm just trying to show that you can fill the same spot with something that is very, very similar, but it is not the right thing. And that's what's going on. We have mercury mimics zinc, the way it works in our body. So our body goes, oh, hey, you look like zinc. And then it gets it in there and it's like, oh, crap, you're not zinc. What the heck are you doing here? And now we are built with partially improper substances, except they still sort of work. The homeless dude might still run a cash register. He might just be putting $10 in his pocket every once in a while. I'm not trying to say that homeless people steal or anything. Please don't look into that. I'm just trying to use an example to build a visual. So as we have these improper substances in our body, we're storing memories on them. We're understanding the world. We're being conscious. We're receiving a stream of information. We're doing crazy stuff with it, and we're processing it in the computer's sending it the wrong way, storing it improperly. There's almost like a hard drive RAM storage feature going on here. We're putting those memories into a physical thing, because how else would we have memory if it wasn't somehow getting stored physical? So when we've got these broken pieces in there, we've got broken mindsets stored on them, this is where we run into a huge problem, because a lot of people don't fully understand how to go about properly balancing the body to get these nutrients rebalanced and get the toxins out. So first of all, they're not even, I'm not going to say trying, but they're not even attempting to get the toxins out of the body. But even if we do figure that out, and we're really trying, like I was at one point, our broken mindset can hold us back. So here's a decent story that from my healing. I was going through a really rough phase, and I just wasn't able to move forward. I had figured out that mercury is a huge problem for me. I need to balance all my nutrients. I just need to get small amounts of tons of different nutrients and stick with the ones that help me feel better. And if I notice my digestion change and all that, it's just, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it just sort of fizzled out and paused. And I just couldn't get anywhere for months. And I started to just get that, like, what do I do feeling? And I'm just explaining, this wasn't like daunting on me or anything. And I'm sitting there one day and I was like, holy crap, the dude that hit me with his car when I was 8 years old, although I never blamed him for it, because I probably ran a stop sign, I'm pretty sure, or at least the way that I was partially responsible for this, except the guy was drunk and stoned. And like, if I was driving drunk and stoned and hit a kid that ran a stop sign, I'd be like, yeah, that was probably my fault. So anyway, I never blamed the dude, except one day I'm sitting here and I was like, holy crap, that guy went to the bar and got drunk and smoked a joint, not because he wanted to get in his car and hurt somebody, which I already knew. He was doing it because the world is a piece of garbage and life sucks sometimes. And when we're done slaving away for somebody else so we can pay a couple of our bills, sometimes we kind of just want to enjoy ourselves for a couple minutes, even if that means poisoning ourselves with recreational drugs or something. That part doesn't matter. It's the fact that we're just trying to get by. And it clicked in my head that this was a human being doing his life thing on this crappy planet, and whatever happened, it's not his fault. Just like I could find myself there. Obviously, drunk and stoned we don't want to do that and drive. This is back in the 80s, though. That was fine back then. I think you used to get like a free 20 ounce for filling up at some gas stations in certain states. But what I'm trying to get at is realizing that this is just another human being was like, it was groundbreaking to me. It changed the way that I saw things. It allowed me to not hold grudges against my mother for stupid stuff that I shouldn't have been. For all these people in my life that I just had these dumb little minor grudges for things that they did or the way that they behaved or something, when they're just a human being. Who am I to hold something against them for what they did? Even if they did it deliberately, they're really not. The toxicity of the world and the stress of the world is most likely what caused them to behave the way that they did. This gets into everything. This is, I hate to even go there, but if somebody is a victim of rape, I'm trying to word this carefully and I don't know how to. They need to understand that the person that hurt them is just another person and they're sick too. Because we're all sick. We're all stressed out on this crappy planet trying to get by. And I'm not saying that rape helps somebody get by. It's the fact that they're broken because of what's going on. It's kind of not really their fault. And when we blame them, we are now creating something in our consciousness that is holding us back. And until we learn how to remove the physical toxins and remove the broken mindsets, which please be careful judging me on the way I'm saying broken mindsets and rape and stuff, because this is not easy stuff to talk about. And I'm just trying to use that as an extreme example because it's about the most extreme example there is, other than like possibly death. And at that point, we don't really have much option. So there is more to this. This isn't just, I feel like crap, I'm not going to get out of this. There's so many options to figure out how to move forward. And if our mind is stuck and we can't figure out how to do what I'm talking about, we have to figure out how to do it. We have to go for walks. We have to go for bike rides, kayak, hiking, camping, picnics, go to the movies, do stuff that we did as a kid, talk to people that we haven't talked to in a long time, talk to people that we don't know, go make friends. Go to a new store, get in the car and drive for 2 hours and go to a town that we've never been to. Call up a friend and ask if they want to get together for lunch while they're at work or something. They can say no. We just have to try. And by connecting with other people and connecting with things that we know in our mind were enjoyable at one point, might be enjoyable, it'll at least take our mind off of things. That's just really all we have to do, which kind of segues into taking our mind off of things. Part of our problem is our mind. Okay, here's a great example. There's about a dozen times in my mind that I thought I'm done. I'm not getting out of this. It's going to be interesting for my wife to clean up all my shit. And I'm here still. So what was that held me back? It was my mind. I made it up in my head, and I sat there and I ran with it, and I ran myself into the ground. What I'm trying to say is I did that to myself, and I'm proof right now that what was made up in my mind didn't exist, or I wouldn't be here. So we have to be careful with our thoughts, and this gets all back into the nutrition and stuff. Part of our mind being able to do this is because we have imbalances and we create neurotransmitters that are now stuck over here as a toxic form, and they're actually causing us brain damage and stuff because they can't get out in time. This is why nutritional balancing, going slow, is so important, and not just taking drugs and taking 5 supplements for the rest of our life and assuming that one day it's going to work. We've got these major problems that are causing all these crazy imbalances, and are doing this to us. This is not us, guys. This is our body struggling to function inside the wrong environment. If I open up my computer and I pour water in there, can anybody expect it to function properly? If it doesn't just short out and go poof, and I go to open my email and it doesn't work, can I assume that there's any reason for my email not to work except for the water that I just poured in my computer? Because that's what we're doing. We've got Water to circuit boards on a computer is like these toxic metals and other things and pathogens in our biological system. The wiring can't work right. The code has got bad stuff in it. It's like the electricity coming in is not correct. There's all of these things that are influencing our machine incorrectly, and we're sitting here driving ourselves mad trying to figure out how to get out of it, except we're not seeing the whole overall picture. And that's nobody's fault. It's just how it goes. I'm lucky to have figured this out. There's people that don't figure this out. And that's an unfortunate aspect to this, but that just goes to show that if we figure it out, we wrap our mind around it and we figure out how to move forward with it. And if we don't figure out an option, we sit here and run ourselves into the ground with our brain making stuff up that doesn't exist. A less severe example of this situation is when I first moved to this house before my health crashed, I used to have a hard time going in my backyard because I assumed my neighbors around my backyard were watching me. And I don't mean that my neighbors were looking out the window watching me. I mean, like, as I'm sitting there cutting something or digging a hole and I like mess up and fling dirt in my face or something, I assume that somebody's judging me. That is like so stupid of me to do, except I'm making it up in my mind. I'm worrying about something that doesn't even exist. Now, after years of healing, I don't give a crap if I forget to wear pants and go in my backyard and my neighbor is staring at me. I don't care what my neighbor thinks. I care about what I think, what my mind is going to do to help me enjoy myself. Well, who cares about other people? So that kind of gets into this. We have to like pull our stuff together a little bit. And I know that just sounds like cheerleader stuff, but like we have to like really look at this almost as like a business instead of just like, if we have a business that's failing, we're not just like, oh crap, I hope I figure this out. We like sit down and start writing things down and doing research and calling people and figuring out how to make the business continue going, because if the business fails, then a lot of work goes down the drain and then we can't pay our bills and stuff. So if we look at this as a business, I think we can start to organize ourselves a little bit. And then if we start talking to other people and finding people going through similar things, we can work together or help each other organize without even realizing it. But I wasn't going to get into like nutritional stuff or anything like that, but this is actually really important for this. Sunlight and red light therapy. So like I said, we're Earth suspended by sunlight. The sunlight is one of the most important things to our health, and that's why we have a lot of problems today, because we've been tricked into thinking the sun hurts us, and we stay inside in front of these blue lights all day with air conditioning, getting the UV blocked through the windows. So we're getting incorrect sunlight. We're not even getting much sunlight, and then we live under blue light, which is a problem. Blue light is connected to illness. There is a thing called seasonal affective sadness, whatever, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, whatever, depression. There you go. It's known that some people become depressed in the winter, and that's because the sun is not as strong in the winter and we're inside the house more. So sunlight and getting outside is really important if we want to keep a positive outlook, because think about it. Our mind is going dark into dark places. We need to get out in the light. And the light, there is no darkness and light kind of thing. Yeah, we can still feel like crap out in the sun, but like we have to get out there. It's important. Our cells are communicating light all day. We need more light. That gets into the whole vitamin D thing. We don't want to take synthetic steroid hormones. We want to harness the sunlight and get our body to bring those steroid hormones up to proper levels instead of stimulating them without the sunlight and getting into extra oxidative stress, which causes cancer. Red light therapy is it's kind of like the sun. It's using a spectrum of the sun that has healing benefits. So when we get weird improper bands of the sun, that's not good. And when we have blue light from screens, that's not good. But red light, near infrared, so near infrared red light, has a whole bunch of benefits. There's like 4,000 studies that have been done on red light. And we don't need to get expensive LED lights. I use chicken lights. The light bulbs themselves are like $8 a piece. I've got some fancy stand that might have run me like $300 or whatever, but we can get going with red light therapy for like $50. And I used one light for like the first year before I upgraded. Just clamped it onto my desk and sat here in my chair, aimed it at my chest with my shirt off. The warmth of these regular chicken lights versus the LED gets into all types of issues. We don't want that stuff. The LED is going like this all day long, and it's only a small band of light. There's all these issues. We don't want them. They're too expensive. I don't want them. Let's say that. You do whatever you want. The warmth of the chicken light is amazing. Just the feeling of the warmth when we're going through some type of darkness or healing reaction or something is amazing. It feels like a hug. The red light, though, is penetrating our skin, and it's like kind of like spinning a little chargy motor thing, and it's doing stuff. There's energy transferring to our tissue, and our cells are moving forward with that. So it's free energy, essentially. It's not free because we have to pay for it to burn the light bulb, but that's like a couple pennies. That's worth it to me to transfer that into health. So sometimes when I don't feel so good, I lay down on the couch. Sometimes I aim the lights at my head a bit. We don't want to go too crazy with that, especially at first, but just the feeling of the warmth of my head and my chest and stuff, it helps me take my mind off of things, which gets back into taking our mind off of things. This is essentially, in a way, it's kind of panic disorder. I know there's a reason that we are having dark thoughts, but the getting stuck here is kind of anxiety panic, in a sense. So when we start going through this, we have to find ways to flip the script and get away from it, but we also have to trick our mind, and there's a couple ways to do this. You can, and look this up for anxiety and panic. I know it doesn't sound like it's what's going on, but just give it a whirl. If we eat something really sour, like those, I think they were called warheads or something, like hard candies, when you put them in your mouth, it just like, your face like has to pucker because it's so sour. That tricks our brain into like, it just switches. It's like, wow, what, the sour? And it can obliterate our train of thought, and we can step right out of a panic. Sometimes putting salt on our tongue does it for some people. Sometimes people just find a trigger. It's like a food that they like or something. It's just right when they get a taste, that taste lights up other memories, and they're fine for a while. And then there's the whole thing, what is it? You like look around and you name 3 objects and 3 colors or something. What we're trying to do is, instead of this loop that we're stuck in, we're trying to just sort of get out of it and head over into a different direction. And sometimes we get stuck and come back into it, but we just have to do that a couple times, and usually we can get away from it. As we're doing this, balancing our nutrients, realizing what we're doing, and the fact that, we're not going to stop now. Like, we've been doing this our ancestors have been doing this for generations. It's not our turn to screw this up. I think we can pull ourselves up a little bit. Now, as I say all of this, there's plenty of times that I use these myself, and I just sat there miserable, and nothing helped, nothing worked. But all we can do is try, and like I said, connecting with people, I think, is huge. So, all right, so I just had a chance to watch that back, and although I'd love to redo it because I said things a little differently than I planned, I'll never get it done if I do that because this stuff takes a while. So anyway, what I wanted to do was kind of give you a real pep talk thing, or pep rally, or whatever you call it. I just shared my story of how I found hope. What I want to share with you now is my story of how I got my health back. That's the whole reason I'm putting myself on the internet, is to share my story about how I figured this out. What I'm trying to get at is there's like a framework to this, and we don't have to learn every single nutrient, every single ailment, all the stuff. We can figure out how to wrap our head around it and handle it in a certain way, and that's what I did. Granted, this has become a big investment by now. I don't want to spend my money on other crap. I'd rather spend it on me first, because if I don't invest in me and me goes away, all the other crap that I was putting my money towards doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, that's about $4,000 worth of supplements behind me. Not all of us need that. I was very toxic. Some of us might need it. And until we see that this could be a little bit more simple instead of thinking that it's an overwhelming amount of details, is a really important part. That's what got me to finally really start moving forward when I was like, you know what? Instead of worrying about all of my problems, all of the nutrients I don't understand, I'm just going to go ahead and figure out how to get my nutrients back in my body. And when I thought about it, I was like, well, if I eat food and they've got a bunch of nutrients in small amounts, maybe that's how this works. So I'd do some research and I'd be like, why am I so forgetful? Or why do I wake up on the floor having seizures and stuff? And it was like, people were like, I had this problem and I took these nutrients, or I had this problem and I had these nutrients very low on my tests, and then I took these nutrients and they helped. And I was like, thanks, buddy. And then I'd go order that and I'd try it and be like, hey, that kind of helped me a little bit. But then that gets into that whole pulse dosing thing that I talk about, where we don't just start taking a nutrient and not really know what it's doing and take a bunch of it and find out 3 months later we were supposed to take another nutrient with it. So I just take small amounts of lots of nutrients and I put them on the shelf and they sit there just like they are right now. And every once in a while I'm like, hey, I remember this symptom that goes with this nutrient. And I pick up the bottle and it's like, this nutrient helps that thing. And I'm like, yeah. So it's actually kind of fun. It's just a different world. And I'm kind of a weird dude, but I used to be a lot more normal. And I don't mind leaving all of that stuff behind, because everybody's just watching the world go by while we all rot. And I don't want to do that. But anywho, thanks for watching. Please go find my websites, videos, whatever. I'm not super organized, so it takes a little bit of having to click around, and, there's a bunch of links in my write-ups, but sickoftired.com, warminglight.com, whyiodine.com, unpilled.tv. I'm on YouTube. I have 2 channels there. I've got videos in my Iodine for Beginners group on Facebook. I've got Sick of Tired group on Facebook. I got a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. So, take care.